regular thought process for me. It's one of the reasons, I mean, we've talked about this, that often I date younger men. And a lot of it is because...
Let's stop on that, folks.
Oh my God, we had a great dinner. We had a great dinner, by the way, where across the table, your husband goes, "But why?" And I said, "Well, maybe because I can."
Hi, my name is Tracee and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be discussing Miss Tracee Ellis Ross, okay? And quick disclaimer, if my voice sounds a little nasally or a little hoarse, yeah, don't mind me. I'm just coming down with a little something. You know that change of weather always gets the best of some of us. But regardless, we are here to discuss Miss Tracee Ellis Ross, okay? So what comes to mind when you hear the name Tracee Ellis Ross? Is it actress, fashion icon, Diana Ross's daughter, or maybe Joan Clayton from Girlfriends, the neurotic, lovable attorney trying to balance love, success, and friendship? Now, it could very well be all of the above, which is understandable, but Tracee is more than her roles. She's a powerhouse in her own right, a Golden Globe winner, businesswoman, and advocate for self-love and self-definition. She's made it very clear that her life is her own, okay? And that she's not waiting for anyone's permission to live it fully. Now here's the twist. Although she's a character, Joan and Tracee Ellis Ross couldn't be more different. Where Joan crumbled under the pressure of societal timelines, I mean marriage, babies, settling down, Tracee has boldly and sometimes painfully walked a different path. Joan was desperate for a ring. I mean, listen, y'all saw my last video. If you haven't seen it, I'll try to link it down below. But I was very clear in my video about Joan Clayton that she was somewhat of a villain in her own nature, and she was very desperate for a man, okay? If you disagree, that's fine. We'll agree to disagree. But moving on to Miss Tracee. She's 50, unmarried, no children, and still thriving. Heavy on the and still thriving. I really feel like this is an era or kind of like a point in her life where Joan was in her early 30s and she was crumbling. She was crumbling at the thought of being by herself, being alone, not having children. Whereas Miss Tracee Ellis Ross, she kind of thrives in that. She's like, listen, I'm not settling for less. You other girls, you other women, y'all can do that. But me, I'm waiting for my soulmate, and I don't care if that takes until I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70. I'm holding out until someone of my standard comes my way. And I'm honestly okay if that never happens. And for those of you who aren't sure who Joan Clayton is, or you didn't watch my video, tisk, I'll go over a quick rundown. So Joan was a friend who had it all on paper, okay? The house, the career, the clothes, the car, the shoes. She had everything, but still believed she was incomplete without a husband and children. She saw marriage as the finish line, the ultimate marker of success. And every time she didn't reach it, she completely unraveled. Her identity was so deeply tied to being chosen that when she wasn't, she questioned her entire self-worth. Now let's compare Joan to Tracee. Tracee, on the other hand, chose herself on purpose. Okay, I said on purpose. I hope that's sitting with some of you guys. Okay, let's move on. She didn't just settle into singleness. She crafted a whole life around it. She built a career. She founded a beauty brand for textured hair. Shout out to her for that. And became a fashion and wellness icon, all while resisting the pressure to conform to what a woman should be by a certain age. I'm sorry, but Joan Clayton could never. She could never. And if you watch my previous video about Joan Clayton, which you should have, okay, you would know I'm really not crazy about her. I just could really do away with her. And it's because for me, she just never had the strength, the confidence, the courage, the tenacity that honestly Tracee Ellis Ross embodies. Joan spiraled when she wasn't picked. Tracee, on the other hand, made peace with not being in anyone's draft. But it's not just about confidence, in my opinion. It's about healing. Tracee did the inner work, and she's vulnerable about it. She said in interviews that her self-love wasn't automatic, which a lot of us can relate to. It was something she had to cultivate over time. She's even admitted to grieving the things she doesn't have, like a partner or children. But the difference is she doesn't let that grief define her. Joan was emotional and fragile in the face of loneliness. And if you don't agree, see me in the comments. And Tracee, on the other hand, sees solitude as sacred. That's something, honestly, we should all embody, whether we're in relationships or not. Solitude is sacred. And that's what makes Tracee so different. She's living in the fullness of who she is, even if that wholeness doesn't fit the mold or what society deems as suitable. Joan chased the mold, and Tracee, she broke it. Now, moving on to the next segment of this video, we'll be discussing grief. Now, I feel like a lot of us, when we think about grief, we think about losing a loved one, having to physically grieve the death of someone. But there's also grief in choosing yourself. Now, in a 2020 interview, Tracee admitted something that is very raw. She grieves not having children. Not in a regretful, I wish I had done things differently type of way, but more so in a very real way that grief shows up when life doesn't unfold the way we thought it might. So I want to create this space and opportunity to look at grief from a different point of view. So a lot of times when we look at grief, it's almost with sadness, right? But this grief that Tracee is speaking about, that's a powerful kind of grief. The grief of possibility, of having to let go of certain dreams to make room for others. And it's one that many women, especially Black women, are carrying silently. Don't get me wrong, choosing yourself sounds like a flex, and it is. It truly is. But it's also layered, it's tender, and sometimes it's heavy. Tracee Ellis Ross has become a symbol of self-prioritization, but she's also been open about the grief that can come with it. In one of her interviews, she talks about how she used to dream of her wedding day, and she used to dream of having kids, and for a long time, she honestly judged herself for not having those things. Now, you can view this grief from 2 points of view. You can view it as grief of regret, or you can view it as grief of release, of letting go of the version of your life you once imagined. It's not that Tracee didn't want partnership or motherhood. She clearly said that she did, but it's that life didn't unfold that way, and she chose to stop waiting and start living life. And what's, unique about this type of grief, in my opinion, this isn't textbook, but in my opinion, is that this type of grief shows up very quietly. And Tracee has been very candid that the process has been painful yet freeing. So think of it as a tension of being between grateful for life and still honoring the part of you that dreamed of something different. And this is what I truly love and admire about Miss Tracee Ellis Ross, is that she does not hide from her truth. She doesn't perform joy, okay? That's not in her nature. She truly lives a joyful life. One that says, I am whole, even if I'm not partnered. I am valued, even if I'm not a mother. And I am enough, even if the world says I'm not complete. Again, this type of grief is not what we're used to seeing. When we think about grief, it's synonymous to weakness, it's synonymous to sadness. This type of grief is emotional courage, the courage to not pretend, the courage to say, yes, I love my life, and yes, I mourn what it doesn't include. And that is not sadness. That's nothing to walk in weakness. That is revolutionary. So what's the key takeaway here? How can any of us even relate to her story? So my biggest takeaway from Tracee is that we have never fallen short of ourselves. Whatever timeline, whatever standard we have set for ourselves, even though we have not reached those things, we still have not fallen short of ourselves. Maybe you've chosen a path that your family doesn't understand. Maybe you've achieved things that you're proud of, but still feel a lingering sadness about things that you haven't. The marriage that never came, the child you hoped for, or just the companionship you thought would be there by now and still isn't there. What Tracee gives us and what so many of us need is the permission to hold space for both. To say, yes, I'm proud of my life, and yes, I still feel the weight of what I didn't get. She reminds us that choosing yourself doesn't mean you never wanted anything else. It just means you're learning to love your actual life instead of mourning an imagined one. And again, that's not selfish, that's growth. And for every woman and for any man who feels unseen, unheard, or unloved just because their story doesn't fit a traditional mold, Tracee is living proof that your path is still valid and your joy still counts. Let me know your thoughts down below. I truly enjoyed her interview with Michelle Obama and her brother. Love that the brother gave a nice juxtaposition between the point of view between a man and a woman. Let me also know if you guys have tuned in to Miss Tracee Ellis Ross featuring on Black Mirror with Miss Rashida Jones. I watched the episode. It was chef's kiss. I love Black Mirror. I don't know an episode of Black Mirror that I truly didn't enjoy. If you guys watch that show, let me know down below. And if you guys would like me to do a breakdown of any Black Mirror episode, I would absolutely love to. Just let me know down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Well, maybe because I can.